Hello and welcome to the Blood Red Daily News. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some potential Liverpool midfield transfers. First of all, though, I'd like to introduce the person joining me today, Richard, my fellow Liverpool.com writer. I believe this is your second or third time now on the stream.
Oh, second time on this stream, Ben. Yeah, I feel like I've never been anywhere else now, mate. Very comfortable in your presence.
Yeah, still settling in. All right, good to hear. The first midfielder being linked with Liverpool at the moment, he's been kind of heavily linked by a few sources now, is Alex Scott. He plays for Bristol City in the Championship. Has been praised by Guardiola in the past when he played against them in the FA Cup. Still relatively young. What do you make of those links? I mean, obviously, last summer Liverpool brought in Fabio Carvalho. That hasn't quite yet worked out from the Championship, but the season before that, Liverpool promoted Harvey Elliott when he did well in the Championship, and that's worked out a little bit more for Liverpool in that sense. So that does seem to be a trend in terms of bringing in a Championship player into the first team in the last two seasons anyway, and them kind of trying to promote these homegrown players.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I've got to be honest and say I've not seen a lot of him at all. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of rave reviews, plenty of noise about him out of the EFL. And obviously, he's done something right to be crowned Championship Young Player of the Year. He's playing in a decent Bristol City side as well. But I do think you make a good point with regard to your reference to Fabio Carvalho, because obviously he arrived with perhaps a similar reputation, maybe a few more goals to his repertoire, but he was obviously playing in that Championship winning Fulham side. Came in, there were other clubs swirling round for him, and Liverpool were able to snap him up in a good moment. But at the moment, I mean, we were only writing about this last week, weren't we? Things aren't exactly going to plan for Carvalho at the moment. There's even some suggestions that maybe he might be shipped out on loan next season, or worse. But obviously, we don't know that for certain. That's just speculation. But if you go and get Alex Scott, are you doing the same thing, or have Liverpool identified a genuine talent that can make a difference to the midfield next season? It's very difficult, isn't it? Because it's not like you're just tweaking a midfield here, bringing in, taking out an all. Let's say you were taking out James Milner because he was come to the end of his career, and you were bringing in a younger player to backfill him. That's not what's happening at Liverpool this summer. We're going to see the broom sweep clean, so to speak, aren't we? Who will be left when the music stops? I'm not too sure, but there's plenty of midfielders that are on the way out, and I don't think it will just be the out of contract ones either. I do think there's going to be others who are casualties in Jurgen Klopp's attempts to reinvent his squad. So if you bring in a young player like Alex Scott, how easy is it going to be for him to get the game time required to keep his development going? Would he not be best staying at Bristol City for another season? That's stuff that only he and his representatives, and obviously the powers that be at Liverpool or any other club he joined in the Premier League for that matter, needs to determine. So an exciting link. I always like to see good young players come through that can could bring something new to the table, and God knows we definitely need plenty more energy in the middle of that park for Liverpool. But whether that's going to be the right one for Liverpool this summer in a season of transition, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point there. I think he's a bit of a project signing, so to speak. And if you look at some of the Championship players, young players anyway, who've done well in the Championship and then come up to the Premier League, most of them who tend to move to the big clubs don't fare as well. Whereas if you look at someone like Michael Olise, Eberechi Eze at Crystal Palace, or Ivan Toney, obviously, who stayed at Brentford and worked himself up, I think it's so pivotal to get that game time and get that experience straight away in the Premier League. Whereas if Scott was to move to Liverpool, then he, like you said, wouldn't be guaranteed that. So maybe he might be better off, going elsewhere where he's guaranteed minutes.
Well, of course, another option is to do pretty much what happened with Harvey Elliott, and that would be to loan him back out for another season. Elliott benefited greatly from a year at Blackburn Rovers, and of course, even Carvalho didn't come immediately from Fulham. That was on sort of a pre-contract deal, or he stayed at Fulham for the rest of the season. Maybe even he could do another year with Bristol City, knowing that he's coming to Liverpool. It just depends how much Liverpool would really want to try and sign him. If they're worried about other clubs snapping him up this summer and not being able to get more, or his value, increasing beyond that the following season, that's an option. Just need to be careful, because I couldn't see him going straight into the side when if you look at the other sort of 19-year-olds, you've got Harvey Elliott, Carvalho's not long-term 20. You've got Stefan Basic. There's a lot of good midfielders, but they're all very young. That they don't have the experience or the know-how of these senior pros, and it's the senior pros that are changing this season. So I do fear that bringing in another youngster like that might not necessarily need what Liverpool need this season, but certainly maybe if they could do something for the future, then it could be beneficial.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. And another midfielder is also being linked, or Liverpool are being named as potentially being interested in is Frenkie de Jong. He's been linked with Liverpool a few times now. Obviously, his Barcelona transfer for very big money at the time hasn't quite worked out, I think, in the way some Barcelona fans were hoping to, but he's still pretty decent, and he's been in good form at several times throughout the season, and relatively young as well. At 25, is just about to hit his prime.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Liverpool are going to be linked with a lot of midfielders between now and September. I think we can see that now that the noise around Jude Bellingham is settling down. There's so many other names coming into the mix, and I suppose there's no surprise to see him in there as well. I think he's a great footballer. Is he what Liverpool need to build around? I just don't know. It depends how. He's obviously did great in Holland, and there's, well, he's top of the league with Barcelona, so he's going to end up a title winner. So it's not like he hasn't got the credentials. He is a great player, and of course he's got that European experience, which, if you look at the likes of Alex Scott or these young players that come in, they don't have that. They don't have that same credentials on their CV at the moment. So. I would be excited to see someone like De Jong at Anfield. It's just whether Liverpool would be prepared to pay the sort of wages that a player like that can probably command now after being at Barcelona. It becomes a bit of a juggling game, doesn't it? Because, Liverpool have kind of shown their hand a little bit by pulling out of the Bellingham deal on the face of it because of the money involved. And that is logical, because we are talking silly money there, but it's also suggesting that they're looking more for deals rather than big money spending. But is there big money spending to be had on wages rather than transfer fees? I don't know. I suppose it depends how many actually get shipped out at the end of the season and how you balance your squad. But I think if Liverpool were to move for a player like De Jong, it'd have to be sooner rather than later, because otherwise, how can you budget for what other players you're going to bring in this season? I think it'd be very difficult. And that's the thing with any of these sort of the bigger name signings or bigger money signings. I think they've got to be done early doors. Otherwise, you're going to run into issues, and we don't want to go down that road again.
I mean, one of the interesting aspects about a potential deal for De Jong is the fact that Barcelona's financial situation is pretty volatile at the moment, so they do need to sell players on at the moment. They can't register Araújo's and Gavi's new contract with La Liga, so they need to shift some players, and a bit similar to the Chelsea situation where they also need to sell players. Barcelona are in a similar boat,
where they've had to extend the changing room.
Not that similar, but in the sense that they do need to sell players. I think it's similar in that sense for Liverpool, that they can take advantage of and exploit this situation a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, and I think Liverpool will need to be smart in the transfer market this summer. They need to look for those sort of opportunities. Gavi was another one who was a Liverpool ago, wasn't he? Because his bizarre situation, which I'm not sure if everyone's aware of, but he was an academy player, and then he was registered on a senior contract, but by doing so infringed La Liga's wage budget restrictions, because Barcelona had too many players that took them over that threshold. And after a court case, they were forced to reverse it. And now Gavi is back on a academy contract. And he has a clause in that says if he's not on a senior contract, I think it's by June, he can leave on a free if he wants. So he would offer even better value for money than Frenkie de Jong. But again, although he is an exceptional footballer, as is de Jong, again, Gavi is quite a young player, isn't he? And it's the same sort of situation with Alex Scott. Do they want to bring in these younger players? Are they experienced enough, or are you looking for a bit more balance of seniority in the side? I suppose going after Jude Bellingham kind of makes a bit of a mockery of that, because obviously he's only 19. But he is something else, isn't he, Jude Bellingham? He's not playing like a 19-year-old, that's for certain.
I would say the same applies probably for Gavi as well. Just we don't see him as much as Bellingham, probably just because Bellingham's English, so he'll be covered by the English media. But in Barcelona, there's pretty rave reviews, and Kumar's left a comment saying Gavi would be a brilliant signing for Liverpool, the biggest coup possible. So I think clearly some of the fans are on board as well. And I think in that sense, he would definitely be probably a better fit than de Jong.
Yeah, I feel like Gavi offers better value for money than de Jong. But, obviously it depends how keen Barcelona are to hold on to a player like that rather than an established star. But my only concern is that Liverpool need runners in midfield. I don't know. I couldn't really say. I know Gavi's very technically good, gifted footballer, as is de Jong, but Liverpool have been overrun in midfield all season, and we need bodies in there who are prepared to do the dirty work, win the turnovers, track back, cover the ground, and then get the ball into to the players in the creative areas. And they're the type of players I really want to see Liverpool signing. And by all means get some creative ones in as well, but we just need to make sure we get that balance right, I think. We don't want to we're getting overrun by teams at the bottom half of the table quite a lot, and that's not something you want to see.
Yeah, I think what the interesting thing with Gavi is, although he's got that creativity and that technical ability, he's actually quite good in the dirty work as well. And I think what stood out about him when he broke through is the amount of pressures he made and the energy he brought to the Barcelona team. So that's definitely something that he could be able to bring.
There you go. We've hijacked the transfer speculation about de Jong by saying, actually, no, can we have Gavi instead, please?
That's normally how these go. But I think we'll probably wrap it up around here. Thanks, everyone, for leaving your comments. Thanks, Richard, for joining me. And as always, do check out the rest of the Blood Red content going out today and all the written content as well.